I saved her for 3 years, and she became the Van's heir. At the banquet, when I was called punching above his weight, she only said I was a tool. When the one that got away returned, she protected him and found me shabby. I knew then that her heart had changed. Finally, she told me, "Let's get married. I am sincere with you." But I had just received a message from Liam, along with a recording of her begging for reconciliation last night. I had cared for a disgraced lady from the city's high society for 3 years. Everyone said we would be a couple who would finally see better days. That was until, at her welcome home party, she got engaged to the one that got away, leaving me with only one sentence: "It's just a tool. Forget everything that happened before. Let's part amicably." Later, I became disheartened and finally disappeared completely from her world. Yet, she knelt in the rain that night, pleading, "Marry me, I am sincere." On the eve of the Van's heir's return, everyone gathered for a welcome home party. I sat next to Sophia, watching her effortlessly navigate conversations with those around her, a relaxed smile on her face. The woman who was once so down on her luck, she couldn't afford food, had now completely vanished. I knew I couldn't keep up with these topics, so I could only sit by myself. But as the conversation flowed, someone suddenly brought me up. That guy sure is lucky to have saved Sophia just like that. Punching above his weight really paid off. She sounded like she was joking, but her words were sharp, making my face turn pale. Everyone burst into laughter, their disdainful gazes lingering on me. I stayed silent, looking at Sophia. Sophia met my gaze, then quickly looked away. After they had laughed enough, she dismissively said, "All right, that's enough. Ethan is my savior, not a lover, but a savior." I lowered my eyes and said nothing more. As the party grew livelier, the atmosphere became more agitated. Just then, someone winked at Sophia. "Sophia, we have a surprise for you. Do you want to know what it is?" He guaranteed to love it. Sophia seemed surprised by this turn of events. She chuckled and said, "Then I'll have to see what it is." The person just smiled. She walked to the elegant European-style double doors and opened them. A woman in an evening gown slowly entered, her face exquisite. She gazed deeply at Sophia. "Sophia, I am back." The entire hall fell silent. I could feel Sophia's body stiffen, and her face suddenly turned cold. She practically gritted her teeth. "Liam, what are you doing back here?" Her emotions were high. She had lost all her previous nonchalant composure. I was stunned. It was the first time I had ever seen her so flustered. Liam's face clouded with sadness. "Sophia, are you still mad at me for going abroad?" "Actually, I didn't mean to." Before he could finish, Sophia cut him off. "Enough. I don't need to hear any of that. I already have a boyfriend." Only then did she remember me. Grabbing my hand so tightly it hurt, Liam froze, his gaze falling on me, then turning to scorn. "Sophia, I don't want you to be so irresponsible with yourself. Think about it carefully. Irresponsible? What's irresponsible? Is getting back together with you what you call responsible?" She said this, yet I saw her eyes gradually brighten. His face was contorted in humiliation, and Liam's eyes were already bloodshot. He left, his gaze filled with suppressed anger. Sophia stood there, stunned for a while, before softly apologizing to me. I felt her hand trembling slightly, but I didn't say a word. The brief interlude passed, and the party continued. Sophia, however, was completely distracted throughout. When the party ended, Sophia asked me to take her home, but the moment we stepped out, her phone vibrated. She picked it up, and glanced at it, her pupils suddenly constricting. Then she simply said, "Ethan, you go back first," and left me alone in this unfamiliar place. In the middle of the night, I watched her hurried retreating figure, a sudden sense of unease rising in my chest. I waited there for a while until most people had left. I couldn't get a taxi, and Sophia didn't answer her phone call. Just as I was feeling dejected, a gentle female voice suddenly called out, "Mr. Ethan, why are you alone?" I looked up and met her smiling eyes. I didn't recognize her. Sophia had never introduced me to her circle of friends, so it was normal that I didn't know her. I replied politely, "Yes." Sophia had to leave for something urgent. The woman nodded, her voice graceful. "Mr. Ethan, if you don't mind, I can give you a ride home. This wouldn't be appropriate." Meeting my hesitant expression, she playfully teased, "Don't say that. If anything happened to you while we were here at my place, Sophia wouldn't forgive me." Only then did I realize that she had hosted this welcome home party. It seemed they must have a good relationship. thinking this. I agreed. Thank you. Just call me Mia. I nodded. Thank you, Ms. Mia. Mia drove me home, and we exchanged contact information. She said she and Sophia were close friends, and it was good for friends to get to know each other. The villa was pitch black and eerily quiet. When the door suddenly clicked open, Sophia walked in from outside and embraced me from behind. Her soft voice whispered in my ear, "Ethan, I missed you so much." The strong smell of alcohol assaulted my nose, making my eyes sting. I turned to look at her. Her disheveled clothes suggested she had just been through some intense activity. My gaze was drawn to the hickey on the side of her neck. It was a striking, bright red, almost like a provocation. I spoke softly. "Where did you go just now?" A flicker of guilt crossed Sophia's eyes. Then she curved her lips into a smile. "Just some office matters. You know, I missed too much these past few years." I hummed softly in acknowledgement. Sophia, as if by magic, suddenly pulled out a watch from her pocket, meeting my questioning gaze. She took my hand and gently fastened it on my wrist. "Don't be unhappy, Ethan. I just bought it. Do you like it?" I gently touched the watch face, but bitterness spread in my mouth. "I like it, yet. These were never what I wanted. All I wanted was for you to say you truly loved me." Ever since the welcome home party, Sophia had become increasingly absent-minded. She no longer stayed home for meals as usual, even leaving early and returning late every day. Her excuse was that the office was busy and required her presence, and in recent days, she had started not coming home at night at all. "Sorry, Ethan, the office is too busy. I can't leave. I am staying here tonight." Her casual voice came through the phone. I stood downstairs at her office with the supper I had prepared. I replied, "Okay, then you keep busy." I entered the office almost without hindrance. It wasn't until I reached Sophia's office door that her assistant stepped out and blocked me. "I am sorry, Mr. Ethan, you can't go in right now." I hadn't expected to be stopped here and paused, bewildered. "Then could you please contact Ms. Sophia for me?" The assistant's face was expressionless. "That's Ms. Sophia's order. Who is it?" A familiar male voice interrupted the conversation. I looked up. Liam strolled out of the office. The assistant nodded at him, and he waved her away. He looked every bit like the master of the house. He looked at me, his eyes full of amusement. "Mr. Ethan, Sophia asked me to come find her. You don't mind, do you?" I froze, suddenly feeling awkward. Sophia had never wanted me to appear at her office. She said it was because she would give me a proper identity later. Liam chuckled. "Mr. Ethan, forgive my bluntness, but high society values compatible backgrounds. Look at yourself, dressed in clothes worth less than $200. What right do you have to be with her? What right do you have to be with her?" Someone had once said those words to me before, but after Sophia's second year of hardship, such comments had become rare. I lowered my eyes and suddenly spoke. "What about you? You were nowhere to be found during her 3 years of hardship, only to suddenly return to rekindle old ties. When she became successful, if I am marrying for status, then what are you?" Liam seemed surprised that I could say such a thing. His face began to contort in a grimace. But then, seeing the person behind me, he suddenly lowered his gaze. "Why would you say that about me?" I turned my head and saw Sophia standing behind me. Her face was grim, her eyes full of irritation. I didn't know how much she had heard, but I still wanted to explain. "Sophia, Sophia cut me off directly. "Ethan, how can you be so rude?" Sophia's brows slightly furrowed, a flicker of imperceptible disgust crossing her face. "Liam is here to discuss business with me today. I just took over. Do you know how difficult this is for me? You can't help me with anything, so can you please just not make things worse?" I opened my mouth, speechless for a moment. My explanation felt pale and powerless at this point. Sophia simply didn't believe me. "It's all right, Sophia, he didn't mean it." Liam spoke up at the right moment, looking as if he had suffered great humiliation. Sophia sighed, her gaze softening slightly. "Ethan, I am already very tired." The flicker of anger in my heart was suddenly extinguished. I silently lowered my eyes. "I understand." As I tried to leave, passing by her, I heard her add, "Next time you come, wear different clothes. You embarrass me dressed like that." Her words pierced me like a sharp sword, the pain spreading through my limbs. My body stiffened, and I found it hard to breathe for a moment. Meeting her evasive gaze, I thought sadly, Sophia must have forgotten why I was in such a predicament in the first place. When I found Sophia, She was barely clinging to life in a dumpster. She clung to my leg, her face smeared with blood, her breathing ragged and unstable. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Save me, please." A moment of compassion softened my heart, and I took her home. After cleaning her wounds and waiting for her to recover, I learned what had happened. Her name was Sophia. She had been betrayed by a friend and retaliated against by an enemy, leaving her with broken legs. Her family, deeming her useless, had abandoned her, leaving her to fend for herself. Sophia said she had lost everything, and begged me to let her stay. She looked so pitiful that I agreed. Over time, living together, we gradually developed feelings for each other. The day I confessed my feelings to her, she cried and told me, "Ethan, I am not good enough for you. I am just a useless cripple. I'll only drag you down." I couldn't bear to see her so insecure and sensitive. Looking at her helpless legs, I secretly made up my mind. Because of the expensive surgery fees, I started working 3 jobs a day, desperately saving money, all just so Sophia's legs could get better treatment. Later, when I had saved enough, I finally sent her to the city's finest trauma hospital, and when Sophia fully recovered, the first thing she did was embrace me, her eyes red, her trembling lips gently touched my fingers. She said, "Ethan, I truly want to marry you." Years of savings were completely depleted, but I didn't care at all. I thought, as long as Sophia could recover, that was all that mattered. But the 3 years I dedicated to her, the days I couldn't afford to buy clothes, and ate instant noodles every day, now all transformed into sharp blades piercing me. The pain was so intense I could barely breathe. "You embarrass me dressed like that." Sophia, uncharacteristically, came home tonight. Seeing me, she reached out as if to embrace me as usual, but I moved away. Sophia's curved lips flattened slightly, and irritation clouded her brows. "Are you still mad?" I remained silent, shaking my head. "I said too much at the office today. But Liam and I are just friends, really." Her tone was restrained, but a subtle undercurrent of displeasure was almost audible. "Friends." The word lingered on my tongue. I lowered my eyes. "But I am your boyfriend. Why didn't you listen to me today?" Sophia had already lost interest. She spoke impatiently. "What do you want me to do? Stop contacting him over this petty issue." "All right, enough. I am already tired. I am going upstairs." Sophia threw out this sentence and went upstairs. I stood there, dazed. Just now, Liam had added me as a contact. He didn't say anything, just posted a social media post. "Thanks, Sophia, for the generous wristwatch. But where's the complimentary one?" It was the same style as the one on my wrist, but his looked more exquisite. My eyes stug, and I felt a pang in my chest. A liar. The gift was a lie. Then what about this time? Sophia didn't come home for several days and stopped contacting me. Perhaps she was angry at how I treated Liam, or perhaps she thought I would be the first to back down and apologize to her. But that day, a sudden, severe stomach cramp hit me. My stomach illness had flared up, my face pale. I shakily pulled out my phone. Enduring the pain, I made a call to Sophia. The line kept ringing. It wasn't until I made a second call that Sophia's hoarse voice finally came through. "Ethan, what's wrong?" I was trembling from the pain. "Sophia, my stomach illness flared up. Can you take me to the hospital?" Sophia was silent for a moment. Then, I clearly heard a man's voice on her end. Completely unprepared. "Sophia, is my warm herbal tea ready? My head hurts so much." Sophia finally spoke. "Ethan, you heard him. Liam can't be left alone right now. You used to get stomach aches often. It's nothing serious. Don't be so fragile." I couldn't describe how I felt inside, only that the pain made my vision blur. "I am really hurting, Sophia." Before I could finish, Sophia hung up the phone. As my consciousness faded, my vision went black, and my hand unconsciously dialed another number. When I opened my eyes again, the pungent smell of disinfectant filled my nostrils. "You awake?" A gentle female voice spoke. I blinked and turned to meet Mia's worried gaze. It turned out I had called her last. I felt a little guilty. "I am sorry I bothered you again." Mia smiled and shook her head. "Why isn't Sophia with you?" Seeing my eyes dim, she wisely closed her mouth. After picking up the medicine, Mia dropped me off at the hospital entrance, and then went to the parking lot to get her car. "Ethan." I hadn't expected to run into Sophia here. She stared at me, the smile she had just had for Liam fading from her eyes. It was replaced by irritation. Why are you with Mia? My face was expressionless. I had a stomach ache. She just took me to the hospital. Sophia looked down at me from her height, scoffing. No wonder you haven't been contacting me these past few days. What? Did you find a new sugar daddy by playing pitiful? I looked at Liam beside her and suddenly found it a little amusing. But deep down, it felt as though something had been brutally carved out of my heart. My voice trembled. Sophia, do you think everyone is like you? Her face instantly turned cold, and she gritted her teeth. Ethan, don't say things like that to provoke me. I wasn't going to get entangled anymore. Exhaustion spread throughout my body. I walked straight past her, turning to leave. Sitting in Mia's car, my phone kept buzzing. Ethan, you disappoint me greatly. I put my phone down. Feeling utterly disheartened at that moment, Mia was silent for a moment, then suddenly spoke. Do you know Sophia has been preparing for her welcome home party recently? Sophia had never told me. Meeting my bewildered expression, she sighed helplessly, then she suddenly changed the subject. Liam is her childhood sweetheart, and also her ex-fiancé. I clenched my fist. She glanced at me, then she continued, if it weren't for that accident, which caused Liam to go abroad, they would have been engaged already. Sophia might truly love Liam, but as an egoist, she will always put her own interests first. I understood Mia's meaning. She was advising me, Liam could help her, because I no longer had any utility. She abandoned me. But a sliver of hope still lingered in my heart. What if Sophia did love me? Seeing my silence, Mia seemed to break the awkward atmosphere, or perhaps it was sincere advice spoken from the heart. Ethan is such a good man, you should be a little kinder to yourself, too, shouldn't you? After arriving home, I called out to Mia, can you take me to the welcome home party? She paused, then nodded with a smile, of course. When the day arrived, I received no message from Sophia. It was no surprise. Mia took me to the venue. The welcome home party was grand and extravagant. It seemed she had put a lot of thought into it. I followed behind Mia, looking indifferently at Sophia on stage. She spoke eloquently from the stage, detailing the difficulties of the past 3 years and how she had rebuilt herself. But she didn't mention anything about me. Finally, Sophia took a deep breath. Lastly, I want to give special thanks to one person. The spotlight suddenly converged on a man, who slowly walked onto the stage. Liam, dressed in a bespoke black suit, walked towards the light. Mia looked at him with tenderness in her eyes. That's my fiancé, Liam. A round of applause erupted from the crowd, as if they had already anticipated this outcome. Liam's eyes, too, were full of happiness and tenderness, but I met his triumphant gaze, and the silent words he mouthed. I told you, it's not good enough for her. The last vestiges of reluctance in my heart finally vanished at that moment. I didn't feel as sad. Instead, it felt like a weight had been lifted. It should have ended a long time ago. I just hadn't been willing to believe it. I gave Liam a faint smile, intending to leave once the banquet was over, but stopped me. She threw a card in front of me, her chin slightly raised, displaying a hint of arrogance. I've used you for a long time. Forget everything I said before. Let's part amicably. Take this money as compensation. I smiled. No thanks. Like you said, let's part amicably. She seemed to think I was being too ungrateful. Sophia frowned. Didn't you save me just for my family background? Don't dream of marrying into wealth. I am never going to marry you. She was somewhat exasperated, and her words became particularly harsh. I shook my head. If I was after your money, I wouldn't have saved you in the first place. Sophia, you need to understand that human emotions cannot be measured by money. Sophia's words abruptly stopped. Mia, who had been watching from the side for who knows how long, saw me turn to leave. She followed after me, genuinely remarking, Ethan, you're remarkable. I don't know when she started calling me Ethan. I shrugged. I am not that noble. I actually regret not taking that money now. We met each other's gaze and both laughed. I exhaled. Thank you for helping me so much. Would you like to have dinner sometime? Mia's lips curved slightly. I'd love to. After moving out of the Vance estate, I returned to my old home. It was also where Sophia and I had once lived. Seeing her personal belongings everywhere in the house made me uncomfortable. I finally felt a sense of relief. After clearing everything out, I'll just throw them away, I thought. She probably doesn't need them anymore anyway. After a few days at home, Mia finally had some free time. To treat a young lady like her, I gritted my teeth and went to the city's finest restaurant. When I arrived, she was already there. A faint smile appeared on Mia's face. Ethan, why are you so early? Aren't you even earlier? She smiled. I am always punctual. That evening, Mia and I had a delightful dinner. She was graceful and spoke with discretion. What a truly good person. I thought to myself, how did she ever become friends with Sophia? But as we left the private room, I saw someone I didn't want to see again. Ms. Shen. Lie arm in arm with Sophia, walked towards us. His scrutinizing gaze swept over Mia and me, then he suddenly smiled gently. Mr. Ethan, is it really appropriate for you to be having dinner with Mia right after breaking up with Sophia? It's a small world. I twitched my lips, annoyed beyond measure. Is it any worse than you interfering in someone else's relationship? Liam's face stiffened at my words, and he angrily turned to look at Sophia. He seemed to be asking her for help, but was silent, staring blankly at me. Her eyes were dark, lost in thought. After a long moment, she asked in a hoarse voice, "What's your relationship with Mia?" I was somewhat baffled. "What business is it of yours?" Her gaze sent a shiver down my spine. I wanted to pull Mia away quickly, but from behind, Sophia's mocking and malicious voice rang out, "Mia, you really do like picking up my leftovers. First it was clothes and toys I didn't want, and now it's a man I don't want." I could feel Mia's body stiffen, and I suddenly stopped. I smiled and looked at Sophia. "If you can say something like that, then Mia probably also picked up your discarded dignity." "Hey," Mia chuckled. Seeing her reaction, I felt relieved. My messy relationship with Sophia shouldn't drag innocent people into it. That evening, upon arriving home, I unexpectedly saw someone who shouldn't have been there at the doorstep. Sophia didn't know how long she had been standing there, staring at a pile of things on the ground. They were her personal belongings from before, which I had thrown out that morning. I frowned, not understanding her purpose in being there. "What are you doing here?" Sophia turned to look at me, a flicker of hurt in her eyes. "Ethan, are you really that cruel?" I almost laughed aloud. "That's ridiculous. You were the one who scorned me, and you were the one who betrayed me. You said you wanted to part amicably, and now you're accusing me of being cruel." "Sophia, I am not the one who forgot where I came from." As if thinking of something, I went upstairs. I threw something out the window. Sophia fumbled to catch it, but after seeing what it was, she suddenly froze. A ring. It had a cheap plastic feel. She had bought it secretly back then, in that shabby rented apartment. The warm yellow light cast a faint glow. She put the ring on her finger. I remembered her, crying with red eyes, making one promise after another. "Ethan, it'll be fine soon. Just wait a little longer. I will marry you." Now, looking at her opposite, I smiled. She must have remembered it too. The who said she would definitely marry me. The who said she loved me over and over again. It's strange, she's the same person. Yet I can no longer find any trace of who she used to be. "Sophia, just like you said, let's part amicably." I closed the window, leaving her alone to stare at the ring. No one knew what she was thinking, but none of it had anything to do with me anymore. Late at night, my phone suddenly received a call. "Hello." The other end was silent. After a long moment, I heard Sophia's voice. "Ethan, do you love me?" She sounded drunk, her voice tinged with confusion. How bizarre. I frowned. "If there's nothing, I am hanging up." She didn't reply, but her hand repeatedly thumped her chest, making her clothes rustle. "I have everything now, but I still feel so bad, like my heart is breaking." "Ethan, why is this happening?" She truly seemed confused. I didn't understand what she meant. Was she toying with me? I sighed, and with my last bit of patience, I told her, "Perhaps you're just not used to it. You don't love anyone, Sophia. You only love yourself." My patience ran out, and I was about to hang up the phone, but then I heard her last unconscious murmur, "But I feel like I might love you." The news of Sophia cancelling her engagement spread very suddenly. Liam disagreed, but she was exceptionally persistent, having gotten engaged only a few days prior, and now calling it off. The two became the laughingstock of the city's high society. Mia told me all this. She had been reaching out to me quite frequently recently. She claimed it was her responsibility, as Sophia's good friend, to look after her sister's ex-boyfriend's emotional well-being. She spoke with conviction, and I remained silent. It seemed to make sense. I thought, fine, let her be. But I truly didn't understand why Sophia cancelled the engagement. Wasn't Liam the one that got away, whom she had longed for all these years? It suddenly started raining that night. It was raining hardest then. The windows rattled loudly as I got up to close them, but I saw a vague figure standing downstairs. She must have been standing there for a long time, completely drenched by the rain. When I saw who it was, I frowned. It was Sophia. What was she doing? As she met my gaze, Sophia began to tremble all over. I saw her holding something up high with both hands. I looked closely and froze. It was a diamond wedding ring. Her expression was desperate and lost, like a traveler who had lost their way. I thought about it for a long time. Ethan, what you said isn't true. I do love you, Ethan. I truly want to marry you. Her words were sincere and mournful, but I felt no emotion inside. Just a sense of detachment, blandness, and calmness. There wasn't even the satisfaction of revenge. I could only feel, with certainty, that I no longer loved her. Looking at Sophia's almost stubborn expression, I sighed. What's the point? Belated affection is worthless, Sophia. We both know the truth. Sophia didn't move, but I could feel her instantly slump in despair. She seemed to be in great pain. The next second, I expressionlessly closed the window, shutting out all sound. I thought that given Sophia's personality, she wouldn't come looking for me again after my complete rejection, but I never expected her to go so crazy. Sophia resigned as the Vance heir, shedding her noble and extravagant attire. Her 3 years of painstaking dormancy were now being destroyed by her own hands, little by little. Ethan, I am here to pick you up from the office. Sophia stood downstairs at the office where I worked. She wore a shabby white shirt and jeans, a faint smile on her lips. She seemed completely unaffected by her reputation. My gaze swept over her clothes, and I was a little surprised. These were from the pile of things I had thrown out earlier. She actually picked them up. I rubbed my temples. What exactly are you doing? Sophia tightly clenched her hands, surging emotions rising in her throat. I hope to earn your forgiveness. I shook my head. I was never angry with you. I just don't love you anymore. These words made her face turn pale, and her body seemed to hesitate before speaking. After a long while, she spoke with a hint of bitterness. Then what do you want? For me to love you again? Just as I was about to answer, a man suddenly walked quickly towards me. It was Liam. He glared at me fiercely. Ethan, what exactly do you want? Sophia is my fiancée. How is what he doing any different from meddling? Before I could speak, Sophia walked forward with a grim face. Shut up. We've already cancelled the engagement. Liam looked at her in disbelief. Sophia, don't do this to me. I am your childhood sweetheart, your rightful fiancé. Sophia was silent for a moment, then she suddenly turned her gaze to me, her eyes seeming to plead for something. I met her gaze, then indifferently looked away, just as she had done at the welcome home party. As I turned to leave, Sophia's sad and painful voice came from behind me. Ethan, don't you care about anything at all anymore? I paused, but I didn't turn back. After this incident, Sophia was quiet for several days. I was just breathing a sigh of relief when I suddenly received a video in a shabby warehouse. Sophia sat by the wall, her face smeared with mud and blood. The person beside her hesitated and asked, Ms. Sophia, this, should we really break them? Sophia took a weak breath, then nodded forcefully. Break them. The few people exchanged glances. Then, the dull thud of blunt objects hitting flesh, and the sound of bones cracking filled the air. Sophia lay on the ground like a dead dog. Her lips were almost bitten raw, and even though her body trembled with pain, she didn't make a sound. At the end of the video, she dragged her broken, useless legs, crawling step by step towards the camera, a look of perverse satisfaction on her face. Ethan, how about this? Is this the kind of me you liked back then? Ethan, my dear Ethan, save me just one more time. Had she gone mad? I took a deep breath and shakily sent the video to Mia. Mia immediately called 911. Sophia was sent to the hospital for treatment. Mia and I followed, standing outside the operating room. I couldn't describe what I felt inside. I wouldn't forgive her, but I didn't hate her to this extent either. Mia sighed and patted my shoulder. Don't overthink it. It's not your fault. She's sick. Sophia had an underlying condition before, and now she had gone through this ordeal. Her legs were completely crippled. When I entered the hospital room, Sophia's expression was calm. The broken legs seemed to have no effect on her. Seeing me, she seemed to gain some spirit. She curved her lips, giving me a fawning smile. Ethan, I cut her off. Enough. Don't you understand? I stopped loving you a long time ago. or do you want me to hate you now? Sophia panicked, her eyes red-rimmed. Ethan, I am sorry. Ethan, please don't hate me. I just wanted to help you vent your anger. I felt a wave of exhaustion. Mia walked in at just the right moment. I suddenly stepped forward and took her hand. I have a girlfriend now. Please don't disturb me again. Sophia stared into my eyes, a mix of resentment and despair in her gaze. Finally, Mia gently squeezed my hand and leaned closer. The light in Sophia's eyes died out completely. Leaving the hospital, I let out a breath. I nodded gratefully to Mia. Thanks, I said, otherwise I truly wouldn't have known how to get out of that situation. Mia shook her head, and a blush suddenly spread across her face. It's nothing, she said. I did it willingly. I was stunned. At that point, if I still didn't understand her intentions, I'd truly be dense. Meeting her expectant gaze, I slightly lowered my head, although I didn't know why she had feelings for me. After what I'd just been through with Sophia, I currently had some reservations about that kind of thing. I am sorry, I said. I've just been through a lot, and I am not thinking about that kind of thing right now. Mia looked a bit disappointed, but still politely expressed her understanding. After that, I left this city. There was no news of Sophia, apparently. She lost her status as the Vance heir, and because of her disabled legs, she was not doing well. She was back to where she started. Unfortunately, this time there was no Ethan to pull her out of the mud.